So I guess we are live now. It's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be something like an old man trying to set up a new phone, which is going to be fantastic, just perfect. So bear with me. Second is my first stream ever. It's going to be a disaster, but here we are. And probably none of you can even hear me, which is going to be the best part of it. And if you can hear me, just drop me a message in the chat. There's a lovely delay, as always, when it comes to streaming, so it's going to be a fun start for sure. For sure. Oh, I see you, Sergeant him. Sorry, yep. Welcome, old chap. So, yeah, I guess we'll be able to start. I'll give me people probably like a minute or two before we actually move ahead with everything. Yes, thank you for confirmation. People can hear me, which I'm not sure it's actually going to be a good thing, but we'll see. And of course, now I've just noticed that I did not bring any water for me. So I expect in around 20-minute mark to start coughing like a madman with everything I will say. Uh, yes, so good start. And yeah, we're going to wait like a minute more and then we'll begin. And for people who have already gathered, I actually have like a big plan. Like, I'm not sure if you will be able to see it in a perfect resolution, but I've drawn key talking points that we'll be going through. And as you can see, this is my modding notepad, which has a lot of coloring, because obviously the coloring is most important thing you can do when it comes to preparing yourself to be a mod professional or be old-fashioned like me. Because for some reason, if I have notes written down, I stick to them much more than if I make random notepad documents. And for people wondering if I am half naked, no, actually I'm not, but I have a lovely, lovely cleavage. What mark we have? Okay, 1 minute. Yes, hello, hello, everyone. I can see more people coming, so yeah. Perfect. Perfect, perfect, just perfect. Okay, let's start. So, yeah, this is my first modding live stream. Probably other Total War modders did something like this. I think Fenris did, at least SFO team, they did something like this in the past. Probably would be even more entertaining if I was pretty drunk by this point. I'm not. I'm working out now. I can drink sadly, which summons my Polish soul a bit. Staying sober for such a long period of time, but yeah, you need to get the gains, brother. And now, when it comes to the content of this stream, we'll be taking a look at whole process of creating a unit. Probably a bit chaotic when it comes to how I do it, and probably there are people who do it in a way more professional way. Over my years of modding, I've actually worked with a lot of modders, and a lot of them were much more professional than me, like Dresden. Like he's the modding god. He's super professional. Magnar, I haven't worked a lot with Magnar, but he's also a very professional lad, and he did a lot of nice YouTube tutorials that helped a lot of Total War modders, and kudos to him. And even like from recent time, like someone who I can say is very professional is Ganosa. He's now currently mostly focusing on Agony mod for Troy, and yeah, he's very professional chap. So I guess all of these people have much better methodology than I do, but I do it half for fun and half because I want to prove something to myself. So today we'll be actually taking a look at one of Sabean units. So Sabean Kingdom gets a bit of a makeover in this patch, and yeah, I try to do my best because first of all, when you want to create an issue, when you want to, I'm actually going to create an issue in a second, but when you want to create a unit, you first need to ask yourself a couple of questions. First of all, what purpose this unit will serve? What sources do we have on this unit? and how to envision this unit, overall in the relation of the entire army that this nation can field. Because, for example, Seleucists, they are a perfect example of a nation that actually has less units than they should have in the Middle Impera. Because honestly, they can have a lot more units than they have now and still be somewhat accurate. Um, Although for a purpose of making the roster like fun to play, there is like no point to have like 4 types of light archers that would have pretty much be exactly the same in terms of stats, or the stat differences would be so small that why bother, honestly. So yeah, we have to do it smart and not always do it robust. And now when it comes to Saba, Kingdom of Saba, the issue is that there aren't many things we can work with, and what we can work with is sort of cobbled together from Arabian Peninsula, from variety of centuries, and not necessarily attributed to the specific region. For example, a lot of stuff when you type in Google or try to reach out to some books about proper knowledge, um, a lot of stuff that you see in relations to Arabian Peninsula or like Sabean Kingdom or even Nabatean Kingdom is often from a lot further up north, like Hatra, for example, or even like Dura Europos. Like a lot of these places have stuff that are put in Google or in books as a representation of, for example, ancient Yemen, and there's like a quite a bit of a distance between, for example, Dura Europos, I think, in Syria and Yemen. So, well, it's hard to say how much of it holds up to facts. And books, honestly, are not much of a help because they have the same issue. Like you have historians trying to write books on the subject, and yeah, and they have to work with what we have. And then the other issue is language issue, a language barrier issue, because, for example, yes, I'm Polish, so Polish is my native language, and I can use English. But for example, I don't speak Arabic, and I can put a bet on it that we have a lot of books on Saba or even like Nabatean kingdoms in Arabic that simply put were never translated to English, so we think we don't know stuff, but maybe they're actually in books in Arabic language, just not translated. So unfortunately, we have to work with what we have. But for example, what was interesting when I was doing the research was that I found a depiction that I'm going to show now of a heavy cavalry. Like, would any one of you expect like this type of cavalry from Yemen? Because this piece is from Yemen. We see infantry with small shield and sort of quilted armor, which can be cross-referenced with a lot of different depictions from other depictions from the area, because it's not the only one that we can see this type of soldier just like this. So this is quite interesting. And the thing is that this cavalry guy, like this sort of like a cataphract, or maybe just wearing like a caparison, so it's actually it's not armor, it's cloth. The thing is that it's probably from 3rd to 6th century, and on top of it, some people attribute it to be actually Sassanid and not Yemen representation. So maybe it's like an art from the area, but it's not depicting Arabian soldiers. It's that just depicting their allies or like their overlords from Sassanid kingdom. But yeah, it's definitely an interesting piece, especially for this soldier. Like looks very Arabic when it comes to other depictions of Arabic soldiers that we have from earlier centuries, and there are like several of them that shows like similar like quilted armor, or at least what I interpret as quilted armor, because it could be just a folded tunic, and this is just the way that the artist is showing it. I'm going to take a look at the chat for a second. Some discussion going on the ballistas, but I'm not going to delve into this. So yeah, going back to the topic, the unit that I wanted to work on today are Sabean Nobles. And Sabean Nobles are a unit that used to be one of the most OP in the Impera because they had both a much better ranged entry, they had more mass, so they were more resistant to cavalry charges. They had also like a better weapon entry and more armor on them, and more ammo too. So yeah, they were quite strong, especially when AI used to field quite a lot of them. So it was a lot of time. How long is the stream expected to be? Honestly, I don't know, but I'm going to start working now and I hope to keep it at around an hour. Probably because my voice will start to fail in around 10-minute mark from this point. So we'll see. And the Sabean Nobles, the unit is supposed to represent, well, nobles from Sabean Kingdom, especially the urban regions, more urbanized regions. And the classic depiction is them using sort of a scale armor with spear, bow, and shield. And for example, we have something like this from one of the graves, showing a soldier with a spear, a bow. It's probably a tunic. Not much we can say about it. It's armor or cloth. I actually think it's just a cloth, not an piece of armor. But yeah, we have something like this going on, and then we have something like this here, similar. So we have like a small shield, a sword here, a similar like looking skirt with folds, and spear. So we have a guy like this here. And what I'm also going to use is a bit of a help from other mods. So for example, we have some concepts from Europa Barbarorum, the mod that pretty much paved the way for Dividend Impera to even exist. I was a huge, I'm still am, but I was a huge Europa Barbarorum mark. And when Rome 2 was announced, the quality of Europa Barbarorum was something I wanted to have in Rome 2. And luckily, yeah, we have Dividend Impera that covers it. What else? We also have this nice concept from Europa Barbarorum team, which is quite similar to what we eventually have in Dividend Impera. But yeah, now it's time to actually start working. So what do we want to do when we want to start working? Well, we need several things. We are not going to manipulate with 3D models, as in use asset editor, a tool that you can easily cut, split, merge models for Total War games. This is more boring and time-consuming thing. So if it's going to happen, it's going to happen later on. Because one thing I need to remind, or even like tell for the first time a lot of people, is that well, when it comes to time spent on making a unit, for me it's usually 2 to 3 days. It doesn't mean that I work constantly for 2 to 3 days, but usually I make a concept of a unit, like the initial one, like a basis, that I'm okay. I think okay, this looks fine for now. Now let's start to add stuff to it and then polish them. Like for example, fix clipping, and only then, like for example, I manipulate models because, for example, issue that we have quite often is that models are clipping between each other. So for example, you have a tunic and the sleeves are clipping through the shoulder parts of the armor, and then it needs to be fixed. But it's kind of thing that I fix at the end because we don't know how many other models might be clipping. And then, for example, if I'm going to fix the clipping, I'm going to fix it in a way that will solve the issue for other things too. So it's much more efficient that way. So even though we're going to work on this unit today, it's actually not going to be finished until like next few days, or at least it won't be like final, because I always find something that I can improve. I'm going to head to the chat for a second. Sir Kedrick said, could there have been armors that were cloth over chainmail in occasion or in some of historical pieces? Yeah, this is possible that it happened. Although I'm not sure how chainmail was relevant in this area, Although everything that's most of the stuff that we have found was from up north, where they definitely use mail armor, so it's possible. Especially even on the horse one, on the piece with the horse. It could be just cloth barding, but it's maybe a cloth barding that is covering mail under it, which was quite often the case for medieval horse caparisons, that they actually had something under it, and obviously the cloth is there to protect from the heat. What else do we have? Pink Leonidas wrote, again, mine's pretty strong. Funny how you guys made a shock pike unit. Yeah, it's pretty much pretty much how they were supposed to perform. It's actually, I think, for most of elite units, the role of the elite units is rarely to be a put into a mid grinder, like holding force. Like, of course, it makes sense that they are supposed to hold the enemy. For example, like 3 they are supposed to hold the enemy off, but when you have to use them, it means it's already going bad. So they are more for to cover the retreat. Even though when we look more into organization of Roman army, we know that 3 would be used quite often, at least to how compared to how much we envision it. And yeah, usually when you had like full-on elite units, they would rather be a shock units, not shocking as in charging with two-handed swords and so on, but yeah, related rather to role of an anvil rather than a hammer, if that makes sense, especially if you have like shorter pikes, because honestly, like, I know the pike sounds like a defensive weapon, which it sort of is because it denies enemy space, but if you want to actually attack with a pike, you have to make a use of it, because pike is heavy and you're gonna be tired, so you need to push your enemy out of position, and do not prolong the fight, because the longer you need to have the pike in position, the more tired you are, and eventually you will not be able to hold it for long, and your attacks will be much weaker. Same with archery, because archery is damn tiresome. Like, you get tired as an archer quite fast, because the bows you have as an archer, they have a quite of a poundage, like 50 kilos and more. And the war bows, yeah, they are nasty. Like, you can't use them for long, especially if you are in like a constant exchange of arrows. Like, you can't do it for like an hour. I mean, depends on how fast you can go, because when you have the rate of fire, there is only a limited amount of time how long you can sustain it. And you have to pace yourself just to not tire yourself down too fast. Okay, and now, oh, hi, Mercifully. Yay, koala, my daughter's favorite animal. Okay, so now we are going to head to assembly kit and the tweak. So variant editor, this is actually something that Creative Assembly created for us, and it's one of my favorite tools, because honestly it's not much more complicated than RPG character inventory. You know it in a second, especially people who never modded in your life, because modding is addictive. It's very addictive, and you might overstate how difficult it is, because depending, of course, on part of modding, some of it is quite easy. So, for example, here I'm going to create a new variant for our Sabean Nobles. So I'm going to head to my DI folder, where I have something called template. This is something I created for myself. So template is a template. It's a character with lot of slots that I can use for variety of units. And as you can see, each of them has like a slot name. So like beards, helmets, clothing, cloaks, graves, prop 1, prop 2, prop 3, shields, and so on. And yeah, you can assign stuff there. Like helmets, you can of course put helmets in. And it's not much more difficult than putting a helmet from inventory on your character's head in any RPG game. Just a second. Yep. And just hit the message and what's going on the chat. Can Bojack. Yeah, of course. Hi, Summary. And now, yeah, now we are going to start putting stuff together. So obviously, first of all, you see this guy. Well, he doesn't look too Sabean to me, so I need to change it because of course this is my template, so I have something here. I'm going to delete it. Now we have no character. We have also Hoplite Spear. I'm going to delete it too. Now in the hair slot, I'm going to put the actual skin slot. Honestly, it doesn't matter unless it's a weapon or a shield. It doesn't matter what you put where. I mean, it's nice for consistency if you want to, but honestly, I never really bother a lot with it. I know Summary hates hates me for it because, for example, I would have like helmet in beards, and then in cloaks I would have armor and so on. But for for me, or like for the game perspective, it's not really important. Hence why I've made just prop 1, prop 2, prop 3, because it's honestly, at the end of the day, it's irrelevant. Okay, I'm going to head, as you can see, like now I'm in a variant editor. I selected man because I'm not going to work on an elephant. So I have man. I pick one of the categories of items. So as you can see, we have armors, bosses are shield bosses like cloaks and skin. That's the one I'm looking for. And we have a list, a huge list of skins I can use. And some of them are standalone, some of them are variant definitions, variant mesh definitions, which means they are actually a compilation of different skins. And I'm going to go with this one, so I don't need to add each and every single one of them. I can just add a group of variants. And this is something we do, for example, with helmets. Like you don't need to add every single helmet piece by piece. You can go earlier into variant editor and create, for example, something like late Greek helmets, and then put like 5, because 5 is the limit of how much you can put in each category. Like here, 5 items, and then you just you can make like a group and then just add it, because the advantage of doing it that way is that, for example, you found a new helmet, or maybe you found a helmet that is similar to what you already have, but has much nicer texture or some details that you like. So, for example, if I had late Greek helmets as a compilation, I can replace one of the helmets, and I actually don't then need. I just need to update this variant definition. I don't need to update units that have it, because now automatically, when I add this variant to our files, every single unit that had late Greek helmets assigned will now have new ones without me actually needing to go into every single unit and change it piece by piece. Going to head to the chat now. Yeah. I see that, yeah, why I'm using Chrome 2 variant editor. Attila variant editor is less buggy and has better UI. Honestly, for me it's the opposite. I hate Attila one for some reason. I'm not sure why. Like, I hate the lighting and so on. I think the ROM 2 version is much better for me. So yeah, that's the one that I'm using. Actually, I never found the Attila one to be less buggy at all. I found it to be, I mean, as reliable as this one. I'm not sure how much it says. Versaholic asks, do you small mod suggestions for people who are brand new to modding? I often hear about people wanting to get started but don't know or where to start. When it comes to this, I would have to say that for the most part, I'm self-taught. I never had anyone really teach me how to mod. I mean, not that it never happened, because yes, I did ask people questions, I've exchanged knowledge with other people too in the past. Like, ask them what they know, tell them what I know, or like even there, like I have a few modding friends that if I find something, I'm going to tell them right away, like, hey, I found this cool thing, maybe it would be useful for you, or like I'm not really shy about it. Like, for example, some people were asking, like, why in Dividend Impera we don't have melee cavalry? Everything is either shock or missile cavalry. Well, that's because I found that shock cavalry has better behavior for AI, which means that in terms of AI, shock cavalry will always go to the flank and will cycle charge as soon as charge bonus runs out. Melee cavalry didn't do it. It would charge frontally and stay in combat because, yeah, it's melee cavalry, so it's what it's supposed to do, I guess, by the name of the category. But that's not how cavalry works, because cavalry is pretty much, if it's not missile cavalry, it's going to be shock cavalry. And it's actually made every cavalry now perform better. And yeah, anyone who wants to use it that way is free to use it. You don't even need to credit me, because for me it's too obvious thing to put a credit on it. But yeah, if anyone has questions about modding, I will happily answer them and share my knowledge. Like, how I did X in Dividend Impera, I have no issues to tell someone how I did it, and that person can use it in his mod, of course. But I usually don't do mods on requests unless it's like a very small thing. Not because I don't want to, but because I don't have time to do anything bigger. Like if it's someone is asking for a mod that's like 10 seconds to make, then fine, I can do it. But it's something, like, hey, please, do this animation or so, then probably not because I don't want to, unless I find it's really interesting and something that I might try to do to learn something, but just because I don't have time. Honestly, my time is like extremely limited, and I try to make the most out of it. So that's why I'm rambling on a stream for a few minutes about a question. Anything else? Okay, and now we are actually, I promise you, now we're actually going to start modding. So I actually have a group of skins that I would be happy to use here. As you can see, the prefix is CROC, so Croc, which goes for Constantine Rise of Christianity. It's other mod than Dresden did, and it comes with quite nice stuff for units when it comes to skins, and I quite often make use of them because honestly they are handy, and I'm probably going to go with Eastern one. And yeah, as you can see, I pulled this one, and yeah, it's just a guy with a head and set of arms, which means the person would be perfect. But I would like to have a character that has a long tunic and pants, because pants usually also come with shoes. So, for example, if I would have a character that has full body with legs and everything and shoes, the shoes would be clipping through the no, other way, legs would be clipping through the shoes. Sorry, I'm just going to draw one message. Do we have anything else in the chat now? Have you already gone over how to make 41 stack armies? Yes, I've played with it, but it's not something you can mod. It's something you need to edit with a save. So, for example, edit SF or save parser. You need to use it to just start a campaign, make a save, open it with save parser, and then you can set the armies to be like 40 units, 41 units, whatever you really want to make them. And as long as you don't make them smaller than the existing armies, as long as you don't make them smaller than the existing armies, it should be fine. And once you go back to your campaign, it will be working like this. Even if you were like 100th turn into the campaign and then you increase it, it's still going to work. Best experience to do it on turn 1, obviously, but as long as you increase the limit, it doesn't really matter when you do it. Yo, Toxborg. Oh, actually, shout out to you guys because you also make very nice content, and honestly, I wasn't aware of it for quite a long time, which is a shame because you have some quality stuff. So kudos to you. And yeah, obviously, Immersaholic, a lot of you know. If you guys don't know, Toxborg is also very good guide to check out when you want to see proper content. Okay, my cavalry is in, so I'm going to get a water. Right, all right. Now I have water, so I can continue. Lovely. Much better now. So, right back at it. Um, bu- 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 yeah. So we have a body, and but what if I want to have full body? I have the other set, and as you can see, it's pretty straightforward. For example, the one is skin, head, arms, legs, and the one that I had before was head, hands. So we know what to expect of them. And which one we will use? Well, probably we'll use a mix of them because you can create, for example, this. Add empty mesh, and I have now new mesh with another set of items. So the mesh, you can have up to 5 of them too, which means the unit will have 5 main variants, and then it will just circle between them, and each of them, of course, comes with own unique stuff, and then the game will circle with them, what you have. Okay. And why it's handy, you will see in a minute. Because, for example, you might have a character that you want to have full body, like for example, with legs and so on. And then for other characters, you don't want to have visible legs. You just want to have pants and shoes. So then you can have like one variant with this, and then the other one where you remove this guy and just have this guy. So yeah, that's very, very useful. But usually what I do first is that I make one variant because when you click on empty mesh, it will copy everything that you have here. So usually I make like initial setup. So for example, I know that this guy is going to use a spear as a weapon. So I'm going to weapons. And as you can see, there is a lot of weapons to pick. So I want him to have a spear. I'm going to type spear, and now I have a lot of spears to use. And yeah, I'm not sure if it will be visible actually when it comes to stream because it might be too small. But for example, if you have um, something written in cursive, it means it's a variant mesh definition, so like a asset compilation. And if you have just normal font, that means it's standalone items. For example, if I click on this AV Spear A, it's just going to be this AV Spear A, nothing else outside of it. But if I click on AV Spear Simple, which is written with a cursive, I have now this arrow, and it's actually going to show me that it's a compilation of 2 different spears. So now the game, even if I don't add anything else, it will circle between these 2. And it's also sort of a way to cheat the 5 item limit, because, for example, let's say I've add the spear simple with like 2 spears, and then I can add another compilation of spears like this one, this one, and each of them should have, oh no, they just have 1. But anyway, let's assume each of them has 5. So now, and all of them are unique, which means now instead of 5, I have actually 25 items. Is it good or bad? Well, good for variety, bad for performance. So what I do is that usually I try to avoid doing it that way. sometimes it's good, especially if you have like good set of existing asset compilations, especially for clothing, so you don't need to add too much of them. But sometimes you need to ask yourself if do you really want that much variety? Because if you have like, let's say, 25 different spears in a unit, which means that in a unit of 100 guys, there's each spear might show up only up to 4 times, and then you have like 200 people, which is average unit size in the Impera. Then you would have like 8, like one spear can show up at least up to 8 times. Not guaranteed, because some may appear less, some more, because it's RNG on the end of the day. But yeah, like sometimes it might not be worth adding so much variety for something that will hit performance and won't really be seen in the game. Anything interesting in the chat? Okay, yeah. So I see 2 interesting questions. One from Sargent and one from Tuxborg. So Sargent goes first. Question: is it recommended to fill empty slots with invisible helmet? No, it's not. I just leave them empty because they are empty and they are not going to load anything. And invisible helmet, even if it's invisible, it's still something that the game needs to process. I think maybe it has an impact, maybe not, but if you don't have to do it, then don't do it. And then Togsburg question. Okay, now 2 questions from Togsburg. I'm going to answer because the second one's very short one. So, is there a way to mod combat animations? Yes, and we did, and I did too. Actually, I might try to even have like a stream in the future showing it. I'm not the best at it. There are people much better at it than me. But it's the thing with modding animations, combat animations, it's actually extremely easy, but it's also extremely tedious and prone to accidental CTDs. Because, for example, we had an issue in the past that we've added different deaths from javelins, and we actually made a typo in one of them, which meant that when this specific animation happened, entire game would crash randomly. And because of the size of the battlefield, you would know that, okay, the game crashes in the battle, in the middle of battle, and at some point we were able to see, okay, it happens when people are throwing javelins. But then good luck finding like what animation was messed up, or even like to get to the point that to know that it's javelin, because you have a huge battle, and if the animation would happen on screen, it would crash, and you have like thousands of people on screen. So good luck, but we were able to find it and fix it. But over like the animations, the setup is, they are like fragments. So you have like not like full animation, like long animations. You have like usually like the short pieces of animations that you can put together to create one animation. And quite often it's more tedious than difficult, like I said, because for example, you have an animation that has a slot for spear, and also spear for a slot for sword. So if you try to mix 2 animations that actually have the weapon slots in reverse, like which is primary, then it might happen that, for example, you want to have a cavalry with a spear, they are charging, and then you want to use a sword animation but have the spear in hand instead. It will actually not happen, because the spear will show up on the back, because the weapon slot 1, which is used for spears, lances, and so on, for the second animation, the sword animation, would have the weapon slot 1 assigned to the back. And you can then try to put spear in weapon slot 2, which is okay, good solution. But then it means that the previous animation, for example, had weapon slot 2 in hand, and then also not like in scabbard position. So now you have like a second spear sticking from your scabbard, which looks just awkward. And then when it comes to the campaign camera, yes, it's possible to mod it, but I'm not sure like to what extent you mean to mod it. Like if it's just, you know, zoom in, zoom out, it's quite easy because it's, I think it's in campaign variables in this table, I believe, which often is an issue because people have, there is also like a script file to involve. I never modded the Rome 2 campaign cameras. I modded them in Warhammer 2 because I wasn't happy with the default tilt of the camera. But I know the issue in the past was that people were using campaign camera mods with DVD and Impera, which caused our scripts to fail, which meant either that the creator of the campaign camera mod was putting in scripts that he shouldn't put there, um, or maybe he had like the campaign variables, like the entire file, entire table uploaded rather than just the one line with the camera settings. Okay, going back to the unit because I'm sort of thinking we'll never reach it. So first of all, these guys are our nobles, and we're probably going with something similar to what we have here, 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 and here. So first of all, I've already created in the past a helmet. Oh, sorry, now I wanted to go with weapons first. So we have a spear, and I want to put a proper spears for them. But which one of them would be fine? So yeah, this guy, I think the shorter spears, not like super short, but shorter spears would fit them more because obviously, you know, he has a bow, the shield, and everything to carry. So shorter spear, I guess, would be fine. So I'm going to use our, where we have it, legionary short spears. I mean, these are nice because this is like the reddish one, looks much nicer than the standard short spear, which doesn't mean I can't use it because I'm going to use it. No, this one is actually crappy one. Yeah, this one, the black short spear. So we will have a mixture of them for this unit. So we're going to have 10 different spears. Again, it's enough variety in my opinion. And then weapon slot 3. The weapon slot 2 is usually used for swords, axes, and so on. When it comes to the assigned animations, because as you can see, when I click on the weapons, I can see attach points. And each one of them is rigged to specific animation setup. And like I said, weapon 1 is usually for primary weapons like lances, spears. So spear animations usually have it weapon slot 1 used as primary weapon, where for example weapon slot 2 is used for your secondary weapon or primary weapon if you are a swordsman when it comes to how the animations are set. Weapon slot 3 is for shields. Weapon slot 4 is for missile weapons. Weapon slot 5 is for projectiles. But interesting thing is that it's not going to be the projectile that you see flying out of the weapon, like out of the bow. It's going to be, yeah, if you have, for example, arrow set in weapon slot 4, for a javeliner, when he will, you know, get in the position to throw javelin, will actually, you know, hold an arrow in his hand. But as soon as he will throw, you will see javelin flying out instead. That's because assigned missile weapon has a javelin as a model. So yeah, I'm going to put now some bows. Bow. What type of bow? Like we can. The cool thing is that with asset editor we can go through different bows. Like for example, we have this prefix 3C means it's from Empire Divided. So we have like this nice bow, but it's pretty bow, but it's too big for what we are going for here, especially that on the concepts and art, like we see the bow is fine. It's like a composite bow, but it's not as a big of a bow. And then which one I would like to use? Some interesting decay is from the Kingdoms, but again, we have some cool bows there. This is quite over the top one. And then we have the bows that I want to use, which are step bows composites, which are just bows. Or also, I think I have Roman bow. which is a bit more lighter, because if I go to composite bows or like step bows, they are a bit more darkish in terms of colors. So we're going to have two of them. Now it's not going to work well. And in question why it wouldn't work in the game. Is that because I get also the animation of a soldier, the ranged unit, allows only for one type of bow to be used. So even though when you have the different bows in there, they will visually they will have them. They will have different bows on them when they are walking, aim. But as soon as they will start aiming or doing any combat-related action, they will switch to just one bow assigned to their animation. And then I'm going to add arrow. And then we have great arrows added by summary, which are our new longer arrows. Normally I would go with them, but I know that we already have them replacing our original arrows. As you can see now, we don't see the arrow because it's clipping with the items, and it looks as an old arrow. That's only because I haven't ported our updated arrow to here, but it's the same arrow that I would have otherwise. Now automatically every arrow is replaced by our new ones. I'm going to head to the chat for a second. Talks work about the campaign camera. For the campaign camera, I'm thinking about the smoothness and the ability to make immersive shots, stuff like that. The thing is that for campaign camera, like probably you're aware of it, but what works for camera controls in battles is the same for campaign. So if you press K, it will hide all of your UI. Alt K will just make it crop out the image with like a cinematic, black bars. I'm not sure if N works there or not. But otherwise, yeah, you can't really like make it smoother unless you can do what I do sometimes. I just go to the options and I want specific shot. I just slow down the movement of camera and then I make the shot and record it and get camera settings to what they were before. But outside of it, I'm not sure about. I think because you can script it, I guess it's doable, but it's not something I know how to do it. I'm not a scripter. I'm actually very bad when it comes to scripts, so it's probably better for everyone if I don't touch scripts. Brutus said, I'm surprised that you described animation modding as easy. I couldn't find any guides on it, sadly. Yeah, that's the issue I had too. It's a sort of, I think I've mentioned before, I usually don't watch tutorials and such. I just try to get it done with brute force of sheer clicking on stuff until it works. And yeah, it's okay. Maybe I like animation modding is not easy. It's easy once you know what to do. It's one of the things that you spend like an hour or two messing stuff up, and then it just clicks, and then okay, it's easy because it's usually just a replacing text word and so on. Maybe like I said, maybe we can do it like a stream when I'll mod some, for example, phalanx animations, and you guys see what I mean, because it's easy when it comes to what you need to do. And you have a tool called QTRME, which lets you watch every animation outside of the game. So you can expect what this animation do, and then you just see, okay, this animation name does this, and you just copy the name to the text file that handles animations, and that's it. Honestly, it's like a copy pasting of animation names, and then you have it. The thing is that you need to be able to find what you're looking for, where you want to edit it, and then make sure you didn't do anything that will cause your game randomly to crash at a specific point that you are unable to find. Just keep this in mind. Okay, other question. King Leonidas asks, having the reference, do you often do something a bit ahistorical, as if what if units faction got big? Yes and no. Ideally, yeah. I mean, obviously, I would love to say you guys that yeah, we do everything historical, but unfortunately, the answer is that sometimes you go a bit into what if area. For some factions, less; for some factions, more. Because honestly, we know a lot less about ancient armies that we might think because often we don't really know the composition, how they looked like. The issue is that ancient writers usually didn't describe, like you can see that you have contemporary battles, which are described with barely any details, and then the same historian will have no issue to retrieve like a super long pre-battle speech, word for word. And that's because, for example, first of all, he made it up, most likely, just to make the purpose of the book more colorful for the readers, but also because the ancient writers often didn't think they need to write down things that are happening at the moment because they thought it's obvious. So why waste time and space and effort like to write stuff that for contemporary people was obvious, like why would they describe how soldiers look like if they can just see them? That was their type of thinking. So yes, some units are a bit less historical, some are more, and some are, let's say, plausible. So, for example, what example to give you? Forakitai are one of my favorite examples because we have sword and spear variants of them, and honestly, we don't really know how they fought. That's it. Like Forakitai are, or like Forax infantry are one of the most common units you might say you would expect from late Hellenic armies, and we have like five or 4 or 5 or 6 depictions of them, where we can like visually assess how they looked like, and then we have maybe like 1 or 2 written descriptions of their equipment. But for example, we have no idea how good they were. Like we don't know if they were like elite or they were like regulars. For example, we know that at Parade of Daphne, Seleucids had silver shields, like half of silver shields transferred into Rakitai, but the description just said that they are like either equipped or drilled in Roman manner without going into details. Like, do they have like, for example, like we don't know if they were swordsmen or like spearmen, or did they have javelins, or did they have like pila or like imitation of it? No clues. Did they have scale armor, linothorax, chain armor? No idea. But yeah, we assume they looked like Romans, and why we assume? Because we have some, for example, we don't have depictions of Seleucid Prakitai, but we have from some Egyptian Prakitai, we have depictions of them, so we assume they looked similar, which meant like mail armor, something like this on them. And for example, then you have Spartan thorax swords, and that this is a historical unit. It's plausible because everyone around them used like thorax like units, but Sparta never did because they didn't, let's say, live long enough to be able to field them. Would they? Maybe. Did they? No. But we have such a unit, and probably this is also a reason why Spartan thorax swords are a bit underpowered. Because if I'm going to add a unit that is plausible, I'm not going to make it very strong. So I make a plausible unit just to acknowledge that maybe it happened or it was possible to happen, but at the same time I'm not going to make this unit, for example, a highlight of the faction. And I would rather make the units we know of as their elites or like the highlight units. Yeah. So now we are going back. So now we have basic weapons for this guy. And now if I make like additional variants of them, all of them would have the same weapons. And what I want to have for this guy, well, first of all, actually, as a base, I think I'm going to go with the other one, which is the one with legs. I'm going to add a couple different ones. Each one of them comes with own set of skins. I'm going to go with this one, and I want to give this guy a helmet. I have added several of them. Just need to find the names that I wanted to use. We do have several Arabian helmets. I just need to find the ones that I've added or not. Because there are like several Sabean Noble helmets that we had in the past, but I don't think, for example, I don't think the model is now up to par. You can see it's a bit soapy. That's probably good expression only in Polish, but it means it's not sharp. So yeah, that helmet, well, this one would work, but not the other one. But I indeed have my own helmets. I just need to find the correct one. So now bear with me as I'm silently going. Yeah, found it. So I've added two variants. One like a basic helmet, similar to what we know that, or at least know what we assume can see from the depictions. So one is like a bronze helmet, the other is silver one. I've added bronze one with different outfits, different attachments, and then the silver one going with the same thing. And also, what is important, and maybe you've even noticed, is that when I have a variant, or sorry, when I have the entry selected, there is something called probability, which is a probability how often this thing will show up. So, for example, if on the helmets as a group, if I set probability to 0.9, it means 1 out of 10 guys will have no helmet. And it's usually used for stuff like beards or cloaks. So we don't want to have, for example, beards on all of the guys or like cloaks on all of the guys. So we set it to like, let's say, probability 0.6, which means 60% of the guys will have beards on them. And yeah, so helmets, yeah, we rather want to have it as 1. What happens if we go above it? We can't. 1 is max. And yeah, but if I go into each one of them, I added several categories. So for example, the helmets come with top crest, side crest, and each crest is set to different ones. So it will be, yeah, nice visual variety. So I'm going with these two helmets for now. And I wanted to also go with one, where is it? This one, yeah. I'm going to go with the, oh yeah, with this leather-like helmet, which is like a turban with a wrap. And I want to this one added too. Now, also interesting thing, I'm going to change, like you see the faction, it's not important what faction I have selected here, just for the preview. As you can see, each faction has own color. So for example, I will select Armenia, and now this changes color. You can usually see it on cloth related items, but sometimes on armors too. So it changes color to what faction you have. And can you control it? Yes. Because if you select an item like this that can change colors, you have colors here. So I can actually change them. Like, you can actually mix them more, as you can see with the bottom ones for color 2 and 3. If you have a tunic that has like different colors on it, then yeah, it will work. I can probably show it to you in a minute when we'll go to the tunics. But for single like color items, obviously, only the main one will change. I'm going to look at the chat for a second. Yeah, sure, no problem, Torsborg. I will tag you in the future if we'll have something like this again. And one idea came to my head now. Actually, I'm going to remove this one. And instead, I'm going to add this 3 times, which means, okay, but come, why are you adding the same headscarf 3 times? Well, because if I don't have the item already in a definition, like a variant definition, I can add it 3 times instead if I don't want to waste time, and I can click a different color on all of them, which now means that all of them will have different colors in game. And yeah, now I'm going to add a piece of armor to them. And this is tricky because what should I add first, tunic or armor? That's the question I never had answer to. Because honestly, the answer is it depends. Like some armors are clipping with everything. There's no good way to really add them without manipulating with the tunic model. And yeah, so it depends on the how complex the armor is, and then I try to usually add tunic after. But obviously, sometimes if I really want, if the tunic is very specific for what the soldier is going to wear, then yeah, then I might try to actually add tunic first and then try to align armor to it. Because for example, if you have Greek soldiers, there are like several good Greek tunics that you can use, and they will work fine with most armors because the tunic is usually small, and the longer tunics, like for example, if you want to have Scythian units, they usually need to have like full length pants, full length sleeves on their shirts and so on. So it can get pretty messy with the model. So yeah, I'm going to first try to go with one type of armor. I want them to have going to be a scale one. And yeah, again, we have a lot of armors to use, and I want to go with, sorry, this one. So I want this armor to be one of the armors that this unit will have, but ideally we're going to have also a variety of different ones. So what I do is that usually I pick few armors that I like, and then I add tunic, knowing full well that tunic is not going to work well with all of the armors. So I should try to add few of them, and then add tunics that work with more than one, and take it from there. Also, no, this one is too heavy for them. This one would not fit with what we have seen. This one even called Arabian scale. Might use it, but I want to use the model. And also when you have variant definitions like here, and you want to split one thing, of course you can do like dereference, but I don't recommend it. I just want to find the name. It's called just Eastern scale. So yep. I delete this one, and I what is this Roman Eastern scale? And I have this. Okay. And then there are like few others I might want to use for this unit. I think they are not located here. They're in tunics. Sorry, I was wrong. These are too heavy in my opinion. Going to see if I can find anything interesting that would fit these guys. And yeah, the thing is that I know the names of the models quite well, and yeah, I don't think anything else would fit for now. So I'm going to try with these three guys. As you can see, this one, this and so these two are quite similar because it's same armor. The difference is that shoulder pads are removed and you don't have the riggers added. Do you have anything happening in the chat? Okay. Then I'm going to add them a tunic, and as we can see from the variety of concepts or even art, it should be a skirt. So I'm going to look for something with a skirt. So first of all, I can go with tunics. I can go around. Going to see if I can find anything. No, as you can see, this is the this is what I'm talking about. So we have a lot of clipping, and that's why there are a lot of models that have a word cut in them, which means it's a tooling that have part of it removed. But obviously, of course, I'm not going to use the Dacian one. First of all, because it has long sleeves, which means, as you can see here, because this model has a full, well, not full body, but it has upper body here, it's going to clip with this one. I want to actually find something completely different. Sergeant is asking, what is the unit you are making? Sabean Nobles. Sabean Nobles, okay. This one. And here you can see the model that despite it having a long sleeve, it's actually fitting the unit quite well, although again, it's not something that I'm going to use. Oh yeah, this is getting closer to what we are looking for, but obviously we have a lot of clipping here. And I believe it's actually going to be a skirt named item. Oh, very nice. And SMS means it's Sergeant means alright, so yeah, it's your model, buddy. Your model that fits actually quite well here. And then we have another type. And this one might cause clipping. So this two would work quite well. Yeah, and they are masked properly because Sergeant is a pro. So yeah, you can see they are working quite well. I'm going to probably not use this one. We need to have different color for each one of them. And the issue is that, yeah, how they will look with different armor. So this one is obviously not going to work, and this one is we might see that this being an issue because, as you can see, there is a bit of transparency here. But what with the other tunic? Works for this one, does not work for this one, and it works for this one. All right, but then we have also thing with the upper body. So I'll probably want to use something for the upper body. Go through the models and just see what could be go type upper, because some of them, this one would be fine if not for being a long sleeve version, although it's going to no short sleeve. This guy has long sleeve here in the concept and short sleeve here. Okay, so for purpose of this one, we might actually go with a longer sleeve. It's not perfect what I wanted to have, but let's assume this will be fine for now. Although there are like a few others I might want to. Yeah, for example, this one will might work if I remove the bottom part, which is probably what we'll end up with. So in the future, I'll probably take the top part of this model and remove the bottom one to not have any clipping, and then add it. This model actually called E3, which probably means it was used in the E3 presentation at some point. Yeah, this one would work too. For a second, I'm going to also check if I have anything else that would work. Yeah, this one would be nice too, but again, need to delete the model part. Okay, yeah, so I will definitely do it in the future to have a nice tunic for them, but unfortunately not in the time that we have. So I'm going to go with this Carthaginian one, or how it's called, just so that I can have different colors for it too. Yes, Sergeant wrote, there are few more Upper Eastern full sleeve tunics which I made which would work. Yeah, but the thing is that I'm not sure I'm going to go with this one yet, but I will definitely check them out in the future for the full long sleeve model. Ideally, I want them with short sleeves too. So yeah. But yeah, thanks. I'll definitely check it out. Unless you happen to know the names of them. Mhm. But yeah. Okay, so we have like the basics of this guy done. And other thing is that we need a shield for him. I'm going to go for shields, and for Sabeans we already had quite nice sets of shields done. This one is too big because I don't want that type of shield. I want round shields. So small round shields. Yep. This one, this one, this one. That's too big. Yeah. So Sabean Noble shield patterns. I guess they will work like a charm. So yeah, now we have this guy. We have few things going on for him. Different scarves, different helmets, armor. Again, it's not going to work, but I can add some variety even now. Western scale is not going to work. So I'm going back to armors and I might look for something scale like again. This one is too, but it's nice too, but it's clipping here. I think there are few calls Sabean armors, but they have the issue of being suddenly too short for this. And if you have OCD, yeah, it's definitely something that it's not going to take you a short period of time. Also, don't worry when you look at the names, because for example, you often have names like Skitty and something, or like Roxolan and something, but obviously it usually just means for whom the armor was, the model was made, but not necessarily who should it be restricted to, because we honestly don't really have good clue on who would use some armors or not. Mhm. Oh, this looks nice too. I might actually go with it. Again, made by sergeant himself, and yeah, it seems to work. Yes, I'm going to use it. It's quite nice indeed. And if there are like anything that I've made that could work, I don't think so. Saka armor definitely not. Yeah, this is not going to work with these guys. Oh, actually, I see. I made a model for the but it still has this part. I think I used it for I used it for other infantry units. Yeah, and this one I use for the other noble Sabean unit, but with a combo of different skirt, definitely. But yeah, for the future, when I'll be working on trying to complete this unit, I'll definitely be using one of the armors. The sergeant dropped something interesting in the chat. If I recall, I made a variant of Greek pattern and cut off without the lower tunic. By searching them in tunic, see if you spot any with SMS. Okay, we'll give it a go. Going to the tunics, and actually might be easier if I go SMS right away. Oh, also, usually I'm wearing glasses, but I will show you why I'm not wearing glasses, because my glasses have this nice reflecting feature, which means it's perfect for working in front of computer for long. But honestly, like, yeah, you guys uh, will see different things. So I'm like half blind at the moment, so I'm trying to go through the list here of armors and items. Oh, yeah, that's pretty close to what I was looking for. It's not perfect because of the clipping. So, also, like another issue that often makes me angry is you go into variant editor and you see the model is like, let's say this, it looks perfect, like it's fine, nothing is clipping, and you are happy. And then you go to the game, and then because of how animation is, um, putting soldier like forcing him to stand, like move his arms and so on. Now the clipping begins, and it's like, oh my god, it's like the worst feeling, because the model, everything looks perfect when the guy is standing still, but as soon as he's adjusting his position to animation, then the clipping begins and the nightmare starts. Okay. But yeah, it's definitely thanks, Sergeant. There are like some nice stuff that I might use. Definitely check it out. I'm just not going to check it out now, not further delay. But okay, we have like the basic setup done for the unit. Like few things that are interesting. But again, what we are missing, because we can start to add some fancy stuff. So we have no hair for this guy, and we probably won't go with it, because we can add a hair that is like for helmets, but it's not for all helmets. And for example, the hairline might start like here, so you would be like bald here, and then you would have like flowing hair here, or maybe the hair would be like clipping through the helmet. So that's one issue. And then because the variant is also in this one, then the hair would be clipping through for this, unfortunately, too. Actually, I see some clipping here, but we'll see how it looks in game. Hopefully, it's not the worst. But what we know about this guy? Well, if he has a bow, he has an arrow. What he misses? A quiver. So it's the time when I can go to either accessories or props. Yeah, these are the other I think this quiver is made by you guys for Indian units, and actually I might go with it because we had same quiver on the tomb. Although the thing is that when I also practiced archery, and for example, for me, the back quiver never worked, but also I was using, I have a long bow, so arrows are quite long, and yeah, having them on my hip was always much more comfortable than having them behind my head because I could never like stretch my arm enough to actually pull out the arrow without some weird commotion. Okay, but we have the basics of this guy done. If we have like the back quiver, I would not add any cloaks to the guy, or maybe I can use the slot for cloaks too. So it would be either cloak or quiver, but then he wouldn't have any quiver with a cloak unless I would put it on his side. But I can still add a different cloak, different quiver here. That is quite cool because it comes with an extra bow. So it's the Eastern quiver. But as you can see, yeah, it has a nice bow, different types of arrows, but it's clipping like hell. So there's other one that's slightly taller. It's not perfect too. So I'm going to remove both, and I think, thanks to 27, we have a strapless version, which is going to work quite nice. I mean, it looks like it's hovering in the air, but honestly, it's better. It still looks nicer than clipping. And yeah, so we have the basics done, and I actually want to test it in the game. So I'm going to save it in my workings folder. And what name to use? Well, honestly, it's best to use the name. If you are not making a completely new unit, you're just editing existing unit, and it's best to just use the name. And how to find the name? Well, I can go to because on the unit name might not necessarily be the name of the variant that is used for this unit. So how to find? Well, you have a lot of units. So I want to go, for example, to text and find unit names. And it's going to be probably easier to find it in description. So I go to the unit descriptions core Eastern, and then we have the English name here. So I go to texts to search this column, and I type Sabean, or maybe not. Right. Correct. So what yeah, okay, we have them here. Sabean Nobles, and they're actually going to use an Arabian Noble Sword ID. We're going to select this part, Control C, and now I want to go to unit variants for Eastern, and I'm going to change it to unit, and I see variant name. So it's luckily in case of this guys, it's the same as a unit name. So now when I want to save it, I'm going to save it like this in the folder. And I can close this down. And now I want to open my pack file. I already have one for Saba, so I'm going to find it here. And I'm going to, and I'm going to add my variant to variant mesh definitions. Find the file. Here it is. And I'm going to, so I need to close this one. I'm going to hit save. And now when I click on it, it's actually what we did in the variant editor, just in the text format. So you can also edit it here. Like if you know the names, or you want to fix simple stuff without need to open the file, you can just fix them here. And before we are going to check it in game, I'm going to look at the chat for a second. Sergeant wrote, working with skills is extremely hard. I had to create so many skills, cut
script cuts for different armors for Morans.
Yes, I agree with you. It's scares are one of the trickiest ones because often like one will work for one armor and not for the other, and then the third armor will also mess it up somehow. So yeah, it's a bit rough area. Also, Sergeant Todd said crossbolt quiver have special crossbolt model in accessories. Yes, that's correct. Oh, I mean for the back quiver, yeah. I will add it later because crossbows are also fun feature. They're just bells going around your body, or like small satchels that are nice detail to have for any unit. For example, if you have slingers, you can add a crossbow that has like a pouch attached to it, so it looks like he has the extra stones or ammo in his case, in this pouch. Now I'm going to go to Steam. I'm good for round 2 play. And I'm not sure if I have no, I don't have this one. I actually have different mods selected. Looking at AD mod, see what nice things it has. Yeah, and now as you can see, I have a lot of different packs that I'm working on, so it's always lots of fun. Okay, fingers crossed we have everything acquired. And we are almost at the end of this stream, so I'm actually quite happy and surprised that so many people are still watching. So I'm going to pick yeah, it's got messed up for a second. I'm going to pick a Sabean Kingdom, yeah, here. Yeah, and I have these guys here, Sabean Nobles, and just find one victim. I'll just wait for the game to load. And we have these guys here. And we have this lovely lament here, and I can see I already messed up something because their bow is in weird position, or maybe there's something with the... okay, I know what I did. When I was looking at the... I can show it to you guys and fix it very quick. When I told you guys that the weapon slot 3 is for shields, this is what happened, because for some reason the weapon slot 4 used for ranged weapons is by default assigned to shield, and I need to manually set it to number 4, because now if I even change their mode to bows, they are not going to have. So just a second, bear with me. I'm going to open this up, and this is what I said about being able to do quick edits. I just can go to here and I have weapon. Yeah, you can see we have step bows, and I see that weapon 3 has attached point weapon 03, which I want to be 04. Save. Get back to the game. Start, and fingers crossed it's going to be fixed. It's also nice thing to check and to see what how to, let's say, bug fix your stuff on the go. Sergeant asked, can you give a rough idea of what all changes Saba will end up with? Well, it's mostly a visual touch-up with smaller tweaks to existing units, and also they will get 2 new late-game units for cavalry, because the thing is that Sabaean Kingdom ceased to exist before it got to the late armies, but from similar period we have Himyarite Kingdom. Himyar, and the kingdom was well, located next to Sabean Kingdom. They were like enemies, and eventually Himyar like dominated the region, and among other things, we had actually depictions of their soldiers, and we had depiction of their cavalry, which was a depiction of mail-clad rider on an armored horse with a shield and a spear, followed by light infantry with axe, small shields, and quilted armor. So this is probably something that I will go with for them. So their light cavalry will also use similar equipment. So heavier armor for rider, and a spear and a small shield. Okay, now I'm going to check. And yeah, as you can see now, their bows are in correct position. They are not like sideways, they're like in correct positions for bows when not in use. I'm just go start. And here you can see we can have a nice view on these guys, nice shields. Not much variety yet, because obviously I'm going to work on it. And if I switch them to the bow mode, they will, yeah, start adapting. And their eye meshes, that means they're still going to have the spear in hand. If I go to the ranged mode, they can still see the spear, but obviously they will be using bows when enemy is up close. So yeah, for now, for like a starter, they look fine. They are working, and now the fun stuff begins for me, which means probably around 2 days, sometimes even more, until I'm happy with the details. Because obviously there are going to be a lot of changes to what we can see now. But I hope you guys will end up loving the final result. And yeah, that's it for this stream. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you guys want another one in the future, because I'm definitely up for it. We might discuss what the topic would be, and I hope you learn something interesting. So if you have any questions, this is the time to write them down. Because of the delay, I'm going to give you guys a bit of time leisure to write stuff down, and I'm happy to answer everything until we will go dark. Just going to scroll through
through the chat. Hughes asked, by the way, I'm currently playing with TI-131 and hoplite bonuses versus cavalry and elephants don't carry the same number. I suppose it's been revamped for most factions.
unit. Do you mean like the number, let's say against cavalry is 10 and against elephants is 20? You mean like something like this? I would have to look honestly into it, because I wouldn't really make a fuss about it. But also, since 131, we have a lot of changes when it comes to spear units and cavalry, and stuff like this in general. So yeah, even if it's not changed like you expected, it's the bonuses themselves are definitely different. They are not the same as in 131.
Sergeant said, our nobles lacking beards.
Yes, I mean, beards are something that I enjoy. Although depictions I've seen for Arabians is they're usually without beards. So I will have beards for some of them, but not too much. Of course, I need to study the art a bit more, because usually I looked for soldiers' art. I didn't look for like art of not soldiers. So maybe more common people or like nobles that are not shown as soldiers will have beards. So I will think about it.
And he asked, how do you change troop stats in Total War? It's easy to learn.
Yeah, it's easy. Actually, I can just quickly show it to you. So if you have Rusted Pack File Manager, so RPFM. You need to go, for example, to find a table called land unit tables. I have core Eastern, and then you have unit IDs here, and then you have stuff like accuracy. It's actually not doing anything. Ammo, armor, which is how we call armor, and it translates to in-game armor values. Charge bonus, like you can do, just double click and that's like 0, 1, and now you have 330 charge bonus. Stuff like this. Oh, sorry, it's pretty fresh. And then you have further down, you have like melee attack, melee defense, morale, bonus HP points, number of mounts. It's only for cavalry, chariots, and such. What weapon they have, what missile weapon they have, and so on. So it's quite easy. Oh, I can see the enemy got in range, so we can actually see them using their bows, which is perfect. Yeah, you go, guys. Boom, 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 boom. Nice. Nice that they are working.
Other questions. I'm going
to pause it.
King asked, will you remake the smaller Greek factions? They kind of feel left out. Syracuse, Athens. No,
Athens got like a huge makeover in last patch, so they are not gaining anything, and Syracuse is mostly fine. Although I do feel like they could get something, but definitely not like what if units, maybe just visual touch up at some point. Sparta had like 2 or 3 overhauls. They are not getting anything.
King Leonardo said, I would disagree with your assessment about making it a future of the faction. If needed, for example, Syracuse perhaps getting better crossbows and ballista, they managed to make a unit, make an empire.
I don't think they need them because the crossbows are already top. Like it's based ranged weapon in the mod, so it can't get any better. Same with ballistas, like they're already quite OP. They are the way they are. So I don't like, because there are other mods that do it. We don't add the units for the sake of adding units. For example, like, okay, think about like adding a crossbow unit for Syracuse. Like on the surface, it's fun. Like for example, I would imagine them having like mail armor or maybe like better swords and so on. Like, you know, for a concept, it's fun. But ask yourself, do they need them? Like, because the crossbows are already top. Like they are, you know, not going anywhere above the level they are now, on outside of making them like better in melee. But like as a range unit, they are already top. So should you ask yourself, like, would they really need a different unit? Because I don't think they would. But you know, the beauty of modding is that if you, for example, feel they should have them, you can, you know, go you know, try to do what I did here and try to add them as a new unit. I know adding new units to DI is a bit more tricky because we have scripts and so on. So at worst case scenario, the unit would have no population, or in best case scenario, everything works fine, but won't be compatible with other mods, like some mods that add new units. But yeah, like it's actually super easy to do, and I encourage everyone to try it because that's how the story begins. Like, fun fact is that when I joined Dividend Impera, I didn't even I wasn't even a Rome 2 modder. Like, I've only joined the mod because I was a fan and I wanted to do the community stuff. I wanted to set up a Facebook page and run the mod, the forum section on Total War Center, and that's it. And I only when the original DI creator, Sela, disappeared from the surface of the earth. He was doing also like the battle stuff and so on. I just stepped up because I used to work on battles in other like Medieval 2 or Rome 1 mods before, and I thought like, hey, I might give it a go. We'll see how it goes. And yeah, 9 years later, I'm still here, even though the mod itself is like 10 years old because I've joined in like spring next year.
Sergeant asks, can we get an Arabian Noble versus Moravian Armored Archer finally battle before stream ends?
That would be difficult because, I mean, not difficult, but I would need to add the Morian unit as a general and then go for it. Too much to ask of me now because I still need to do some stuff in this evening. So yeah, so I guess that would be it. Like I said, hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you learned something, and if all signs in heaven will align, we'll have another stream, maybe about the combat animations, which will be honestly a mess. But we'll we'll see how beautiful of a mess it will be. So yeah, that's it, and until next time. Sorry, actually, I see something. One more question. King Leonidas asks, the upgrade wouldn't have to major, it could be making a feeling of progress for the crossbow as an example training. Yes and no. Again, I don't like adding units for the sake of adding units, and the progress, like, it would be artificial addition at the best. I don't. I'm not saying it's not a fun idea because it is, but again, then you add to unit bloat, and then you add, we turn the mod into something we don't necessarily want it to turn into. So yeah, I guess that's it. And for anyone who's going to rewatch it, hopefully it wasn't too painful because I guess it's more fun to be part of it as it's live rather than watching it later. But yeah, I'll see you all until next time, and fingers crossed for open beta to hit Steam in a bit of a time. Not very, very soon, but soon-ish. TM. Bye.